Hey, what's up guys? This is Joe from Analog Archive, back with another vinyl video. Today's video is going to be part one of a two-part vinyl finds. Right now, it is my February break. As a teacher in New York State, you get kind of a week off, and I went back to my hometown to the usual record shops, Bop Shop Records, and Record Archive, and we're able to find a lot of great stuff. And then there's a few records that I had gotten before. I had gone this last weekend, and so those will be included as well. So we'll just get started on that. Today's video is going to be more of quite a few Japanese pressings, some more modern pressings, but a good kind of range of stuff. And the next video is going to be a lot of the big stuff that I've picked up. So make sure that be kind of on the lookout for that in the next few days as well. So the first few are just 7 inches that I got. Really enjoy Steve Winwood. So Higher Love, just a classic 80s kind of song. Found that for cheap, just a few bucks. So was glad to pick that up. And then the other one, so a few weeks ago, I was watching on Netflix, I think it was Netflix, the documentary on Sam Cooke, kind of his life, and then unfortunately his tragic end, and the controversy that kind of surrounded his death. But I was familiar with Sam Cooke and his voice, just a very iconic kind of soul voice. And this song was one that they had played right at the end of the documentary that I really enjoyed. I really liked the soulful feel to it. A change is gonna come. And so this one is a promo. It's actually the same song as on both sides. This wasn't on Discogs, so I had to put that in, but a really great song. And again, just like the last one, real cheap, just a few bucks. And so was glad to be able to grab those. And then the rest of them will be just regular records. And again, the first few are going to be things that I got before, so back in like January. And so a few of them are just like the Blue Note, coming down to Tone Poet and Classic Series, things like that. So the first one, The Waiting Game, Tina Brooks. I think I've actually shown this one in another one. I think it was a contest video a few weeks ago, but a really great Tina Brooks session that had been only on CD up to this point. And I think it wasn't even out for physical, like as a physical media option, until like 1999. And so a really great sounding kind of record. Really enjoy Johnny Cole's. I talked about that in the little Johnny C Blue Note 4100 series video, and I really enjoy his trumpet playing. But this is a phenomenal album. Probably my favorite album of 2021 so far, so really glad to pick that up. Tone Poet series is always very consistent. Never have to worry about problems with like you may see with other newer records. So the next few are from from Discogs that I got from a Japanese seller, Ella Records on Discogs. They always have really great prices, and the records are really some of the best Japanese pressings that you can get. And the nice thing is that the shipping is quick too. So it's not as, even with the pandemic, that hasn't been an issue. They use like DHL Express, so it gets here into the United States pretty quick. So there wasn't any issues with the shipping, which was something that unfortunately you have to kind of take into account now. So the first one, this is Tommy Turantine, self-titled. This is a mid-70s, I think it was like 75 or 76 pressing. It's originally on Time Records, and I think this is a stereo copy actually, but sounds really great. Tommy Turrantine's on trumpet. He's the brother of Stanley Turrentine, who is also actually on this record as well, on tenor sax. Horace Parlin's on piano, Julian Priester's on trombone, Max Roach is on the drums, and then Bob Boswell is on the bass. And so a really great session. Again, he was just kind of like Tina Brooks, didn't really get a whole lot of sessions, both as a sideman and also as a leader, but a really great lead session. So really glad to pick that up. Back in around Christmas time, I had picked up volume 2 of this. So this is volume 1, Jazz Messengers at Cafe Bohemia, and same lineup as what was on the second part, or the second volume. Kenny Dorman's on trumpet, Hank Mobley's on tenor sax, Horace Silver's on piano, Dud Watkins on bass, and Art Blakey's on the drums. Really great session. This is a 1970 Japanese pressing. Obviously, these last few have been. This was before King Records, and this was actually even before Victor Musical. So they kind of mimicked what the original label would look like. So they've still got the Blue Note 33 to 3rd micro groove. At the time, this is actually a 1970 Japanese press, and so they still, I think at this point, they were still in that transition period of going from Liberty to United Artists. And so that's why it says Division of Liberty on the labels, but this sounds phenomenal. It's really difficult to find these really early, especially like the early 70s Japanese pressings, so I was glad to pick that up. I think this was like $30, so it really pays to kind of get it from the source, get it from somebody that lives in Japan, because you're going to get them for a good deal. And then the last one that came from that seller was A Study in Brown, Clifford Brown. I have the box set that I showed off in the summer of Clifford Brown on the Mosaic. That was part of the Mosaic series by Michael Cascuna in the 80s. And but that really only covered Blue Note and then his one session that he did on Pacific Jazz. And so I've been really looking for his Emerson records, especially with Max Roach. I've had a really hard time with it. I think I have one record, but really glad to be able to pick this up. This is mono as well, 1974. This came out, and just a really great lineup. Clifford Brown trumpet, Max Roach on the drums, Harold Land is on tenor sax, George Morrow is on bass, and then Richie Powell is on piano. So just a really great session overall, and really glad to be able to pick that up. So great sounding Japanese press. I've had a hard time being able to find a lot of the even early Emerson records with Clifford Brown. I really have not come across any of them, to tell you the truth, and so going kind of the Japanese route is something that I have done before, and that's what I did obviously for these. The next few are going to be kind of a mix of things that I've gotten on at the Bob Shop this last time, along with a few online things. So first one is from my most recent one this last weekend. This is the Three Blind Mice, Art Blakey, Jazz Messengers. This was originally on United Artists. I think this came out around it was like 1964. I'm not sure if it says at the bottom. No, it doesn't. But I believe it was like 1964 this was recorded. This has got that kind of early to mid, especially kind of the mid 60s. It's like 62 to 65, 66 lineup. Art Blakey's on the drums. Jimmy Merritt is on the bass. Cedar Walton's on piano. Curtis Fuller's on trombone. Wayne Shorter's on tenor sax. And then Freddie Hubbard is on the trumpet. I've seen this one shown off a few times in the VC. Never really been able to find it. This is a Japanese press as well, from the 70s, like the mid 70s. I believe this was actually part of the King. This was pressed at King, which it's one of my favorite, very, very consistent record manufacturing plant. And so got a nice kind of turquoise label. It's stereo. Haven't had a chance to listen to this, but again, for the most part, especially the 70s era Japanese pressings sound really good. This one's really clean. I'm really glad to be able to pick that up. So Art Blakey, Three Blind Mice. Next one's another tone poet, the Raja, Lee Morgan. I picked this one up. Got this on Amazon last weekend, I believe it was. So yeah, I got this. It sounds really great. This is another one that was, I think this one actually did come out in the mid 80s. It was like 80, 85, 86, 84, around there. Kind of mid 80s is when this originally came out. Michael Kaskuna put it out. I think it was, I don't know if it was a DMM or if it was a little bit before that, and it was just kind of a Blue Note pressing, but it was really nice to kind of see this as part of the Tone Poet series, kind of getting a chance to get more of an audiophile sound to it. And so, because I think the original one is actually digital, and so really nice to be able to get this. Sounds great. Hank Mobley's on this, another one. Great partnership that they had. Cedar Walton's on piano, Paul Chambers on bass, Billy Higgins on the drums. So really across the board, a great lineup. You can't really ask for anybody kind of better than that. And so really glad to be able to pick this up. For a lot of them, I really go, especially, not as much for the Tone Poets, but especially for like the Blue Note 80ths. I've just had some bad experiences sometimes with warps and scratches and things. And so that's why I really go a lot of times the Amazon route for those, because if there's an issue, I can return them. There's not an issue. Because sometimes once you open them, you can't really bring them back to a record store. So I just kind of feel bad if that had to happen. And so a lot of times I'd rather have a little more security that if there's an issue, I can get it kind of replacement and it's not going to be a problem. But this one was not an issue. Again, Tone Poets, have never had an issue with them. And so really glad to be able to grab that. Last few, this one I just picked up this last weekend, something else. Cannonball Adderley. When I saw this announced back in like November that this was going to be part of the Blue Note Classic series that started in December, I was really glad to be able to get this. I've had a really hard time finding this. Most recently, in the last maybe month or so, a original mono came up at a local record store, but I didn't really feel that I needed to have an original, I guess. I mean, if something came up a little bit cheaper, even like a 60s one, then that'd be that. But was really glad to be able to see this part of the classic series. One of the few times Miles Davis was ever a sideman on a record. Cannonball Adderley is on alto sax, Hank Jones on piano, Sam Jones on bass, Art Blakey's on the drums. Really great lineup. I really do feel that I'm glad that that this is kind of a Cannonball Adderley session that does not have his usual lineup, because a lot of times I've just felt that there's just been this very restrictive feel to a lot of his albums when he's with his brother, Nat Adderley, and then I honestly can't even tell you who else was part of it, but from my experience, the other late 50s, early 60s records that he's done have not really been my style. They've either been really slow or whatever it happens to be, but this one he plays really great on. So this late kind of 58 this came out, so this is right in that kind of early era for him. So really glad to be able to pick this up. I did have back in January picked up Speak No Evil that was part of this, but it was warped on both sides. That one's become up to this point like impossible to find. And so really glad this one's not an issue. It's not just an issue with the entire series overall, and that it just maybe was a bad copy, but something else, classic record. So glad to be able to pick that up. Finally have that. And then the final one, Clifford Brown Memorial Album. So this is on Prestige. I talked about just a few minutes ago that I have his Blue Note material. I've got the one Study in Brown Emersy one, but his Prestige stuff, he didn't have a whole lot for Prestige, but this was kind of a compilation that came out. I believe it actually originally came out around the time that he had died. I'm not sure if he had died by the time the original this came out. I think it was like 55, 56 originally came out. If it was 56, then it would be pretty close. If it was 55, then he still was alive because he didn't die till 56. So this is on the blue Trident label. This is mono. It's got the AB in the dead wax, which I talked about in the identifying the Prestige label video last month. This has got the AB, so it's the Abbey Record Manufacturing Company, which can be a sign that it's not going to have the recycled vinyl. Now, I don't know if that's 100%, but from my experience, if it has that AB and the dead wax, then it will be good, especially for this era of the blue Trident. So again, this came out 55, 56 originally. This is like a 64 press, really cheap, 10 bucks. Looked at the vinyl, it was kind of dusty. It wasn't really scratched up or anything, but once I cleaned it up, it sounds good. It's really nice, real loud sound. Clifford Brown's amazing on this, just like he is on his other sessions. So really glad to be able to pick this up. Got a great lineup. Art Farmer's on the A side. The A side actually was kind of comprised of when Clifford Brown went to Europe and Sweden. So it's got a lot of like Swedish musicians and other just European musicians. Quincy Jones was the leader on kind of the first on the A side. The B side was, I think it came from a different session. I may be wrong, but it's got Idris Suleiman is on trumpet as well. Gigi Grice is on alto sax. Benny Golson's on tenor sax. Tad Dameron's on the piano. Percy Heath's on bass. Philly Joe Jones is on the drums. So it's got a more of a U.S. kind of American lineup that a lot of people that collect jazz they would be familiar with those. But both sides sound great. It's a little bit different, A versus the B side, but the B side is a little bit more up tempo. But both sides sound great, both kind of, especially audio-wise. And I never really pass on these blue Trident labels. You can find them for really a lot of them under 30 bucks. And so really been very pleased with that. A great alternative to the original. Once I bought this, I listened to it. It's enjoyable, but it's one of those ones where I don't really think I need to have an original of it. And so glad to have that in my collection though. So as I said at the beginning of the video, that's it for this this part one. Part two, stay tuned, will be a lot more of the real big stuff that I've picked up. If you follow me on Instagram, _analog archive, you will see some of the stuff that I've shown that I posted in probably the last month. And if not, you will see that in the next video. But been really pleased since the beginning of 2021 with what I've picked up, both the new releases and then obviously some older pressing, quite a few original pressings, and just kind of continuing my jazz collection, continuing to grow it. I hope that people are enjoying these jazz records videos, and until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next vinyl video. Bye.